What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you all the variables that go into throwing a successful pig shot. So step one, let's start off with stance. So I personally like to go a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. I feel like your feet, when they're a little further than shoulder width apart, gives you a nice athletic balance, allowing you to have really good balance in your shot, which is super important. And this also lines up your shoulders. If my feet are in place, then my shoulders are in place, and right on plane, ready to throw, set me up for a successful shot. This would be a straight shot. If I'm throwing straight shots, I'm lining up my feet like that. And then if I'm throwing an ante shot for a forehand approach, I'm lining up this way because I want to start my angle. I'm in the same, my hips are going to start off a little bit right, which my disc is going to go out right, and then turn back left towards my line of play, and then vice versa for a hyzer. This way, I'm going to start my disc off left of the fairway, or left of my aiming point, and come back to where the line of play is, which would be straight ahead. So I like to call it the clock method. Hyzer, straight, and hyzer. Just a simple way to set yourself up pre-shot routine. So yeah, the more severe of an angle, obviously if I'm throwing a really severe hyzer, I want to have more of a severe angle with my feet like this, as opposed to maybe a baby hyzer like this, and then obviously vice versa for an anhyzer. If I really want to get really far, ante that's going out and really floating way back left, you got to get a more severe angle with your feet. Step two is going to be the hip turn and timing / when to start your swing. So for me, the best way I can explain this is, and I like to explain it when I'm standing still because it's the easiest way for you guys to understand it, is when I'm standing still doing a standstill shot, is I'm getting my arm, I'm just kind of getting a little arm swing, just trying to get the plane. When you see me kind of getting a little swing here, that's just getting my wrist dialed into the shot. So I'm just kind of, focusing on snapping a little bit, getting the angle, feeling the wrist control with my wrist. So that's something I'm doing. But then I'm also, while I'm doing that, I'm getting the timing of my hips coming forward on my practice swing. So that's something I want to talk about a lot more, is talking about how to time up your hips, when to start pushing your hips, so that way your arm can come through and be in sync with your lower body, which is super important. So I definitely like to get my weight back, about 70-80% of my weight back, so that way you can really be aggressive and push off that back leg. And you really want to lead with the back hip, back leg, and really push off first. So it's basically the back leg's initiating the swing, and the arm is following basically. So it's boom, boom. So it's pushing the hip back, and then my arm comes into the slot, whichever, if I'm to whatever slot I want to throw. But it's always the hip first. That's super important. Hip first, your arm comes through and it has a lot of arm speed. It will catch up to your hip by the time the end of the swing's coming. So start with the hip and end with the hip also. You're starting the swing, starting the initiation of your body shift forward, and then you're following through at the same time also with your hip. Start with your hip, end with your hip as far as rotation into the swing. So the next thing I want to talk about is angle control and how to achieve some more severe angles on your discs. I know for me personally, I can really just have my arm be parallel most of the time, parallel with the ground, and then just move my wrist to achieve the angles. But as soon as you want to get a more severe angle, you have to engage your arm as far as just tilting it a little bit one way or another to get a little bit more aggressive with the angle. If you want to throw a roller, obviously you can't throw a roller with your arm parallel, so you have to have your arm like this. And then if you want to throw like a big turnover, it would be somewhere between flat and like this, because that's what would be a roller shot. So that's something I definitely keep in mind when I'm throwing different shots, is I make sure that if I'm throwing severe angle, move my arm, but more times than not, I'm just keeping my arm parallel and moving the wrist, getting the angle. So when you're throwing forehand approach shots, the best way to stay consistent and achieve good results is keep your arm parallel with the ground. And as soon as you want to get a little more severe of an angle, that's when you can start turning your arm up a little bit past parallel. So the next step is going to be follow through. So this is super important, especially with up shots, really making sure you have body control going into the shot. I like to make sure that my arm is extending, and this is super important, making sure that your arm extends on the angle that you want to throw on. So if you're throwing a shot a little bit right with an ante, you have to make sure to extend your arm. A lot of people will just kind of rely on snapping their disc and be a little lazy. You have to extend your arm and snap your disc simultaneously almost. It's basically boom, boom. So your arm extends and then your wrist snaps on that angle. If you do one or the other, where you just snap your arm or snap your wrist before your arm extends, you're not getting as much control and spin and accuracy on your shot. So making sure it's arm and then wrist follows. It's like bing, boom. Arm, wrist, bam. And I notice a lot of people that only throw with their arm, the disc will come out wobbly. That's the number one sign of you not engaging your wrist, or the timing between your arm and your wrist is off a little bit. and that's why it wobbled. So a good way to gauge your angle control is making sure, obviously, you have really good wrist control and making sure that you're snapping your disc on the angle, keeping the palm from start to finish on the angle and the line that you want to achieve. Now I'm going to demonstrate on this hole. I would throw a normal standstill pig shot, so I'm going to demonstrate. It's going to be a slight anti-release, so just pay attention to my feet, pay attention to my release point, arm extension, hip rotation, all the different stuff I talked about, and see how I'm applying it to the shot. I'm gonna go ahead and set a little bit offset. It's not a severe angle, but I'm just gonna do a little bit of an anti setup. Achieve the angle. So now I've set myself up with a pretty severe Anheuser approach shot angle. So I'm really gonna be focusing on all the stuff I've been talking about. So I wanna demonstrate to you guys what I've been talking about so you can see how I put it to work. So I'm gonna go ahead and get a pretty severe angle. Obviously you can see I've got to throw it pretty high to achieve the Anheuser angle. I gotta keep it high, keep the angle on there, and give it a lot of snap. So what I'm gonna be thinking about is I'm gonna be thinking about snapping my wrist on an Anheuser angle, keeping it from start to finish on that angle. At the same time, I really wanna make sure I'm extending my arm to get my arm engaged also. So pay attention to my arm and how I'm snapping at the end. The wrist snap at the end is like icing on the cake. And I really also focus on my hips. There's a lot to think about, but focus on my hips and how they're coming through and how I'm following through. I'm throwing up shots, so you're not gonna see a ton of explosiveness because I'm not throwing so far, but you can still see how the hips turn and engage in the shot. So let's give it a shot. That was good. So if you do all those mechanics right and everything goes well, you can expect to land here. All right guys, now I'm set up here. I'm gonna throw 3 shots and I'm gonna show you how I line up and set up differently for each one. So let's check it out. First one, I'm gonna go straight. Straight into the basket. And then second one, I'm gonna do a little hyzer. I'm not gonna be doing super severe angles for you guys, just slight angles. That last one was pretty much straight at it, and this one's gonna be a little hyzer. So this one, I am gonna keep my palm up a little bit. If you keep your palm up, that's how you know you snap on the hyzer angle the whole way. Right there, about 10, 15 feet. Now the final one, I'm gonna do an Anheuser. So start about 10, 15 feet right of the basket with some angle and come in and hopefully slide up by the basket. Sweet. Just so you guys know, the straight shot finished here. I gave you a little ace run, went a little deep, but I was pretty much on target the whole way. And then the hyzer and the Anheuser. That's how it's done. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something, and be sure to drop a comment below and let us know what kind of videos, what kind of content you want to see, and we can bring it to you. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. What's up, guys? Today we're in the shop. All right, guys, just got done filming a pig through all the variables that go into short range shot, or what goes into and and then ready? 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 Stand straight, shoulder width apart, and that makes sure that you've got a nice athletic stance when you're throwing a standstill approach shot. And your
stance is quite a bit wider than your shoulders,
yeah,
just
right.
So you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
shoulder would be like that. Okay. 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 The tree's on the way. Just gives you a nice athletic balance. Nice athletic balance.